Now, here's an honest question. If there were no fans in the stands, that sounds like a rhyme, it's not. Why, with no fans on location, why do you need to play games in your home city, in your home stadium? We're talking massive stadiums that can hold thousands of people, but nobody's there. It's empty. And then why wouldn't you put a sports league in a bubble where you're keeping players isolated from the outside world with no opportunity of them getting coronavirus? Baseball has done stuff I don't understand many, many times. And we're not just talking about the way they've handled this abbreviated season, the 60-game season and coronavirus. I mean, it's years in the making. I have been repeatedly baffled by the stuff that baseball is doing. And, Major League Baseball had an opportunity to have a centralized season in Arizona. And they didn't do it. And maybe it's very possible that heat was a factor, like straight up. If you're playing outdoors in Arizona in July and August, no way. Good luck. It's way too hot. I believe it's like 119 there today. So unless you're playing in like somewhere higher up, and I have no idea the logistics. I don't know. Maybe that had a factor. There's something unknown that I don't understand. But it's clear to me that Major League Baseball is making things up as they go. And I really want to try very, very hard to not be too tough on Major League Baseball because, although I really want to be, I really want to rail them, and I will a little bit. We'll talk about Rob Manfred, and my disdain for Rob Manfred is too hard to hide. And Rob Manfred is the commissioner of Major League Baseball. But during coronavirus, long-term plans are really hard to do. It's really tough to make any kind of long-term plan. My heart goes out to people who have spent money and time and a ton of effort, and really the money is the one that's the hardest for me to swallow, is people that have put a lot into planning, and there's a stupid fly buzzing around, I think, unless I'm way too sleepy and I'm just seeing things. But the people that have put a lot of energy into planning a trip to Hawaii, I feel bad for them because you're kind of waiting. You keep pushing your trip back farther and farther and farther, hoping that at some point, maybe February, maybe March, maybe April next year in 2021, maybe by Christmas 2021, I'll be able to go to Hawaii. I have no idea. And not me, whoever's planning the trip. And so my point is that any kind of long-term plan during coronavirus is just a total mess. And baseball's similar. Everything feels up in the air. Everything's hard to figure out, and I have some empathy there for the people planning baseball. It's like, yeah, unless you're in a bubble, it's impossible. But 20 members of the Miami Marlins, between coaches and players, have tested positive for coronavirus. That's a nightmare. And now you have players testing positive with the St. Louis Cardinals for COVID-19. And Rob Manfred, the commissioner of baseball, said that if players don't shape up, then the season may need to be canceled. And it was really not an advisory. He was threatening the players. And although unknowns are awful, I don't know that all those are word there. Unknowns are terrible. If you're a player right now, if you're a Major League Baseball player, how can you feel motivated to work hard this year if you don't even know that the game tomorrow is guaranteed? You're in limbo. When you're not sure what your future is, it is so hard to put effort into today. Because as human beings, I did a topic one time on Ask Zach where, people write into the show and ask me a question. And some guy said, what would you do if you were stuck in Groundhog Day? And I said, honestly, I don't know what I would do. Because my entire life is in building towards my future. And if my future is unknown and my work I'm putting into the future might be fruitless. Like, you're working so hard every day. You're going to the batting cages. You're preparing. You're studying pitchers. You're trying to learn every pitch. And then the season gets canceled. You're like, why did I put all this work in to have the season taken away from me when I did nothing to do? So my point is, what's the motivation if you're a Major League Baseball player and you're not even sure if you're playing tomorrow? I don't know. It really is. It's a nightmare. Games have been postponed, and the schedule is all messed up. And Major League Baseball did an investigation into the Miami Marlins, and they ruled in the investigation. It became clear that the Marlins did not follow the rules. And yet I'm still sitting here wondering, why are the Marlins players who allegedly, and I guess now have been ruled to have gone out in Atlanta during a global pandemic. Why are they not being punished for really endangering the entire season? They're not even getting fined? I don't understand. And maybe it's the optics. They're afraid to fine a guy who's sick. I don't know. But can some teams even theoretically play a 60-game season now, given unless they push the playoffs back like a month or something, some ridiculous amount, are they going to be able to get teams to play 60 games? I don't think so. This is what I mean. When it's on the fly, I say they're postponing games saying we'll play them on a later date. What's the later date? You don't have a plan. Baseball has no idea. I think, honestly, baseball is going to cancel early and say, we're just going to keep things afloat for a little while to get as much revenue as we can before we have to shut down the season. And all I have from baseball are questions. All I have. And it's so discouraging. I mean, I love the sport of baseball. I really do. I grew up playing it. It's a magical, beautiful sport. If you've ever watched the YouTube channel John Boy, I say this all the time. John Boy Media is the best baseball YouTuber because what he does, Jimmy O'Brien, he captures the best moments of baseball. Baseball is a sequence of moments over the course of a really long amount of time. And baseball has such incredible special moments, whether it's making fun of a fan or it's some guy does a stupid thing and misses a tag or whatever it is. And for me, I like the anticipation. I love a psychological thriller. It's a great type of movie or a great type of book. And baseball has that aspect where bottom of the ninth, 2 outs, runner on second base, every pitch is terrifying because that could be the pitch that ends the game or is the walk-off hit that wins the game for the other team. It matters. When baseball matters, it's special. And I'm the kind of person, when a home run is hit, celebrate, man. The genius of the NFL realized, hey, if we let our players do touchdown celebrations, it only helps us. You have guys doing the toboggan. You have guys where they pretend to roll a bowling ball, or maybe they roll a football, and players are lined up like bowling pins, and all the players fall over when they score a touchdown. It's choreographed, it's ridiculous, and it's fun. And baseball doesn't seem to understand. They're so stuffy and stuck being a sport and the rules, and there's ways you do things. They forget about fun. And they also are very, very, what's the word here? When there's a double standard all the time. That pitcher who got suspended, and look, he deserved a suspension. He threw at a guy. You can't throw at someone's head. People were so mad at me on YouTube. They're like, how can you say Joe Kelly's a hero when he threw at a guy's head? I'm not saying, I literally even said in the video, I said, there's a dark part of me that likes this, and I'm not totally comfortable with it. But the reason why I said Joe Kelly's a hero is because he punished the Astros in the way that the league was unwilling to do. The Astros players cheated and got away with it and never were punished. And it's like, all the Astros did was benefit. If you're if you're a player presented with an opportunity to cheat again like the Astros did, you're going to say yes, because while the organization hiring you might get fined and might have people fired, you, the player, are not going to be punished at all. I'm going on a rant here. Baseball's so discouraging. And it's a sport that's so great and I think has so many things right. And the league with there is a fly here. I'm not crazy. God, fruit fly. No, it got away. I'm insane. There really is a fly. It really is here, and I'm not crazy. Baseball gets in its own way all the time, and it takes a sport that has so much potential and really is so great at its spirit, and just really nerfs it all the time and makes it so frustrating to follow. And I honestly blame Rob Manfred. Rob Manfred, the commissioner of baseball. He blames players for not, handling things better during a global pandemic, for not handling their business and staying out of the public eye. And, basically Rob Manfred sends a very passive-aggressive message to MLB players. Don't go out, don't do this, don't do that. Why are you not more direct? And I'll be honest, if Rob Manfred's going to blame the players for their actions, shouldn't it also be a little bit on him? Isn't he shirking his responsibilities just a little bit? Because Rob Manfred is at the top. He is the guy. The buck stops with him. And isn't it Rob Manfred's job, the commissioner of baseball, isn't it his job to set the tone, to make expectations very crystal clear? And if you violate the expectations, you get punished? Again, why are the Marlins not getting punished? Well, What is that? And I did Rob Manfred not set the tone properly? I guess that's my question. Players got to change their behavior. If you're a Major League Baseball player, dude, you can't live your life the way you've lived your entire life because unless you were somehow alive in 1912, which you weren't, nobody playing Major League Baseball today has ever lived through a global pandemic. Your life needs to change. Your behavior needs to change. You can't live normally and not expect to get a positive test for coronavirus. Now, people can argue all they want about whether it's fake or not, or does it really kill you? Who cares? That's not the point. The point is if you test positive, your season is gravely in jeopardy. I don't care whether you really believe in the stupid thing or not. The point is you can't afford to test positive. And the only way to be very sure you're not going to test positive is to change your behavior and not put yourself at risk. And then my question is, were players told to self-quarantine? How clear was Major League Baseball with the expectations that players needed to do X, Y, Z? I don't know. And then I just have so many more questions about Major League Baseball. Like, I guess really my point is that I guess as I sit around and think about this garbage pile of a season for Major League Baseball, that's just been a nightmare. I wonder if Major League Baseball has this many problems and they're not in a bubble, how in the heck is the NFL going to work? I legitimately don't know. And why doesn't the NFL have a bubble? Why doesn't baseball have a bubble? And if you think about the NFL perspective, couldn't the NFL have every team stay in a local hotel and self-quarantine there? I mean, so the Ravens have a hotel in Baltimore where that's their home hotel, and the players hang out there. They use the pool, they use the grounds, and they go to the facility. That's it, right? It's very, very, you go to the facility and you go to the hotel, and that's it. And then the Seahawks, couldn't they have a hotel in Seattle do the same thing? They go from the hotel to the facility, and that's it. The only two places the Seahawks can go are those two places. Or the Rams have a hotel in LA. They do the same thing. I know for Major League Baseball, or what am I saying? For the NFL, you cannot put all 32 teams in one location. There are too many human beings, right? A basketball team can get away with it. 22 NBA teams in Orlando because an NBA team is way smaller of an amount of people. A way smaller amount of people. The coaching staffs, the players, the people involved in an NFL team are countless. And you can't there's just not a facility probably on the planet big enough to put everybody in the NFL and host a season. It's just not feasible. But is there no way for an NFL bubble at all? There's no way to have maybe, 32 independent bubbles where the only time you travel is when you're going to play a team in an away game. And then college football's a mess. And, I have friends in college football that are banding together and creating all kinds of stuff that I can't even talk about because it would ruin their plans against their overlord conferences that are really, it's such a mess. It's such a mess. And I'm rambling here. I guess the only sports I have faith in right now are the NBA and the NHL. And I'm just sharing my heart now at this point. This started with baseball. Now it's just me being sad about coronavirus. The only sports I have faith in are sports in a bubble because basketball is working. And basketball is working very, very well. And if you're not in a bubble and your plan is to not have a season with some kind of bubble, I just don't know how you're going to make it. I have no idea how it's feasible that you can take a bunch of risks and not have players in a bubble and expect them to not somehow get sick because it takes one person to slip up. Even if maybe the players totally self-quarantine themselves and totally isolate themselves, but your kids are going to school or your wife is hanging out with a girlfriend or at some point a kid's going to be in contact with something, right? There's just too many variables unless you have players in a true bubble. And I don't know, man, that's my long reaction to COVID in Major League Baseball. It's so disappointing. It's sad. It's frustrating. It's hard to watch. And a lot of the blame should go on Rob Manfred. And it's weird that he's blaming the players. I think it's wrong. And I think that's very disingenuous. And I don't like it one bit.